Welcome to episode 208 of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. On today's episode, we preview Week 10 in college football, talk a little Connor Stallions, talk a little Tyler from Spartanburg, and we welcome on Caroline Fenton from SiriusXM, 1025 The Game in Nashville, and Locked On LSU to help us break down the big LSU-Alabama matchup. You can find this show on our website, SaturdayDownSouth.com, and Apple and Spotify. Don't forget to join us for the live recording of the show every Sunday at 8 Eastern Time on the Saturday Down South YouTube page. Go share the pod with your friends. Looking to expand the pod, and you guys have done a great job of that so far. And now, here's the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Saturday Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South and Texas Pete. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me as always...
Well, hold on. What's this guy's name? Tyler? Tyler, let me tell you something right now. I've already had enough. I've heard enough out of you. Okay? I've got 1 degree. It took me 6 years to get. Okay? You're part of the problem more than anything. You're part of the problem. You sit there with your bald head and your snarky attitude, and you think you're better than everybody because you got all these nice half zips. And I'm over here wearing my new favorite shirt from Smack Apparel. Smack Apparel. Don't talk smack, wear it. That's not their catchphrase. But let me just tell you something, Tyler.
Oh, yeah. I've got all the drops now from Dabo.
Yes.
If you got a problem with that, I don't care.
He said it's everything he said sounded like the most toxic ass boyfriend imaginable. Let me tell you something right now. You walking out there showing your ankles off to the world like a whore. I don't care. Everything he said was so bad.
I ain't gonna let some smart ass kid get on this phone and create this stuff.
Dude was like a fucking late 20s war veteran. And he was telling him he was a kid. Oh my gosh. We should probably start with that. We have a massive show.
There ain't one thing in my life that I've ever failed at, Tyler. Never.
Tyler.
All right. Maybe we should start there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Tyler from Spartanburg.
Set the story. Set the background here. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's because you have a life, for one. Two, so I was talking about this today on the Spurs Up show with Chris Phillips. It's kind of amazing that coaches still have call-in shows. And this is a call-in show that Clemson has with Dabo Swinney. They have it every week, I guess. And it was on Monday night, right?
Yes. Yep. Monday night, just your typical call-in show. And usually these things are either actual coaches or friends of coaches or just people within the program that make these calls. They try to lob softballs at these coaches, so stuff like this doesn't happen.
I don't know that. Yeah,
a lot of it is very manufactured. At least I was actually listening to. They were talking about it on a Florida State podcast I listened to. Guys that are actually on the beat and cover the team, and they were like, it reminded everyone of the Jimbo thing that happened. Where's the loyalty, Jimbo? And they said usually they would have plants in the crowd that would be we'd be off of a 30-point loss to BC because the team completely gave up, and be like, Jimbo, so how about that wheel route you called on third down? What a hell of a call there. Could you break it down? It's we just got smoked by BC.
Yeah, this was not that. So
no.
And we're not going to play the whole call because the entire audio is 10 and a half minutes, right?
I do have the full call.
What's that?
I do have the full call. That's about 2 minutes. I don't know. We don't have to play it.
The full 2 minutes?
Yeah. His full call. Not Dabo's response, just his phone call.
Okay. I'm trying to think of how we should do this. We probably should have gone over it beforehand, but we don't. That's not our style. I think the
how many people have actually heard the call is my question, because the first thing I heard was just the Dabo response, and I was like, holy shit.
Well, first thing I saw was just the blurb and the tidbit about it on Twitter.
Yeah,
And it
right.
didn't
Yeah.
do it justice at all. It was
No.
like not even close. And I like it looked really bad. It sounded really bad. Like it sounded like he just went off on this kid. You didn't know how old he was. Dabo over he cut off the question, and then you kind of you hear the full response he gave. Didn't think it was that bad, especially the first minute and a half. I didn't think it was that bad. But the question basically that the kid posed that like got all the publicity of it was, he said, "We're paying you $11.5 million a year to go 4-4. Explain to me why we're doing that."
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
he
mean,
started off
like,
hot though. He was like, "Coach, I appreciate that you're a man of faith, but you kind of remind me of Tommy Bowden, and we never paid Tommy Bowden what we pay you." That was how
at
he
all.
started his question. Now,
Yeah.
if I was the call screener, I probably would have shut it down then.
The call screener between him
There wasn't a call screener, I don't think.
or her, whoever it is, between that person and the person, like I don't know what's worse, that or the person that was like, "Hey, Nick Saban, you should go on national television and seemingly beg for a spot in the playoff at halftime of a game in the Big Ten championship on a network that hates the SEC and hates almost everything about what you do. You should go on there and do it. What's the worst that could happen? What? What? Bad. Real bad. Real bad. Also, one of our listeners, Jenny, I don't know her last name. I think there's a hyphen involved, so I kind of trailed off and fell asleep in the middle of it when I was trying to read it. She's on Twitter as Noel Hottie, as you do, which I thought, I mean, that's kind of fucked up that she stole that from you, for one.
Well, that used to be, I had that account and then I switched it once this thing became started taking off. I thought it should be a little bit more professional.
That's smart. Yeah, that's smart. I appreciate you doing that too for us.
Yeah.
But her name, she's texting me this whole situation. She was like, you know, it would be funny is that if there was just like a weekly award system of like who's fucked up the most this week in a press conference between Dabo, Jimbo, and Shane Beamer. I mean, like that. You want to talk about the big three of shut the fuck up? Those three are constantly putting their foot in their mouth. Anyway, we've strayed away from the main thing, but like let me play some of the clips because here's again, like the guy made a comment about Dabo and he's like, "We're paying you way too much to go 4-4." I mean, all of that I think is seemingly fair. Dabo's response, I thought, was kind of pretty measured for the first minute and a half. The problem is he was able to go on for 5 minutes and 18 seconds explaining his thoughts on this stranger who's yelling at him, and it so quickly became like the dictator who's like starting to get like, you know, the masses are starting to grow a little bit upset because there's a famine or whatever that's going on, because his comment was like, he's like, "You're part of the problem. You're part of the problem." And I am a man of faith. And then after a minute and a half in, it just got so unhinged. It got so unhinged.
He started off making great points. Like, you know, Clemson didn't have any success for 30 years before we got here. And, you know,
Ain't sniff one, Tyler.
Ain't sniff one. You think Danny Ford ain't had a bad year? You think, I don't even know any other coaches from Clemson, but you think they didn't have a bad year?
Hold on.
He's going down that list. He was like, we've won 12 straight 10-win seasons. We've won 2 championships. Y'all ain't sniff one. And then he's like, "You want the job? I work for the AD. They want me gone. I'll get out of here." Apparently, I didn't listen to the rest of the call-in show, but apparently, like further in the call, he was like, 15 years from now, I don't even know if I'll be here. But if I am, yeah.
Oh my God. He's such a bitch.
Did you see my tweet about time is a flat circle in college football?
No, I don't follow you on Twitter.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you guys want to follow me at home, it's at Tyler Huck. I tweeted out, college football is a flat circle. I cannot wait till Texas A&M fires Jimbo after this season and then hires the 2017 version of Jimbo, Dabo Swinney.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's spot on.
There's so many parallels. Like this type of shit started happening towards the end with Jimbo when he felt like the team, like they lost their culture. That's what's happened with Clemson. If you still look at their power ratings, they're still power rated in Vegas as a top 15 team.
That's insane.
And you go back and look at the NC State game, the box score, there's this guy on Twitter that does like how
I know
bad
you're going with this.
Beat a team.
Yeah.
Clemson actually beat the shit. If you were to look at a box score, you would have thought Clemson crushed NC State.
Same against Duke. Same against Florida State. And well, not as bad against Florida State, but like the Duke thing, like, and what Tyler's talking about is like, it's like this linear, right? Is that how you said it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's like, here's how bad the difference, if you can pull it up. Yeah. So it's like, basically like, how bad did we get beat? And part of it is like, okay, here is a, like, think of just like a straight line, right? And so it'd be like Georgia versus Florida. And then Georgia would be, you know, on this, like, it's like the fuck around and find, I don't know how to fucking explain it. It's an XY axis curve, or like, I can't, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm not going to say another word because I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm going to try.
I'm really struggling with math right now.
We can once I find it, we'll put it up on the YouTube so you can actually see what the hell we're talking about.
The bottom line
is essentially the box score would have you believe that. Here it is. I finally found it. God, I was panicking there.
Yeah, I couldn't say words.
All right, share screen. Bang. So the guy on Twitter is Statso War, Parker Fleming.
Yeah, Parker Fleming.
Yep. He does a really good job. He's super into the analytics stuff. And if you're into that, he's a great listen. If you're not, it might get a little bit over your head. But essentially, the people on the very right of this chart, it's net success rate. So it's net success rate allowed and given up. And Boise State actually did beat the shit out of Wyoming. They had the most dominant win. Clemson actually way outperformed NC State, like to the point where they probably should have easily won the game, and yet they lost.
Out of all the games that he's done, like to put this, like to paint a picture for this, Tyler, like think about, like, all I can think of is the fuck around and find out thing, right? Like the more you fuck around, the more you find out. Like that's where, you know how that whole chart is, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of similar to that, but like the line that it's showing, that like the baseline is where it's each team was even. So for instance, South Carolina, Texas A&M, very even in that game. Miami, Virginia, game that went to overtime, very even. Like the two teams are very close together. Then you start drifting up,
down to the last thing,
and it's Georgia who had so much more of a success rate than Florida, Auburn with way more than Mississippi State. So just to paint that picture for you, then you go to the other side, and it's like, hey, here's the teams that dominated and somehow lost: Maryland and Northwestern, Oklahoma and Kansas, and at the very far end, the very last one, or the very first one, however you want to look at it, which means dominated the entire game and somehow lost in like horrific fashion, almost impossibly, is Clemson and NC State. And what's wild about this is the second time I've seen them in 2 of their 4 losses this year, where they were the very first team because of what they did against Duke and how much they dominated that game. So that's kind of what one of the things Dabo's saying about how, like, well, you know, like we could win these games and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not they're not as close as he thinks they are. But back to the actual quote, his whole thing of saying how like he'd never failed anywhere else, and he's part of the problem, and he kept saying this. Dabo kept saying the expectation is more than the appreciation, and when he said it, it hit me. As somebody that grew up in Stone Mountain, Georgia, and I don't mean anything negative by this at all. This is just the area that I grew up in and the familiarity that I had. Have you ever been to a black church?
No, I have not.
Okay. Love that you paused when you said that. That's going to make a great soundbite. But like at a black church, a lot of times the preacher or the pastor will say stuff very dramatically and emphatically. And it's usually around, I'll tell you what, have you seen the Medea movie? Because there's like, you ever seen a Medea movie?
No.
Bro, I saw Medea Goes to Jail in theaters. It was fucking hilarious.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you have to check it. Dude, Diary of a Mad Black Woman is a phenomenal movie. But he makes this, like, a lot of times, like black preachers will make this point where they will say stuff and it's like a catchphrase or a tagline, right? Almost like the other way I can think of it is like something that a high school workout facility would have posted on the wall. Like, it's like this one line and you're just gonna bang it home. And he just kept doing that. It was like, the expectation is more than the appreciation. Okay.
Everybody say it with me now. The expectation.
Right. And all I could think of the entire time was he thinks in his head when he says it that there's just going to be some old lady named Fannie Mae just like waving a fan in her face going, it's so bad. It's just so bad. But I'm so glad that we get not just 4 more weeks of it this year, but dude, if they lose to South Carolina,
Oh, that would be bad.
Yeah, we've spent too much time on this already.
We have. That I could see Dabo like in his head seeing like, oh, okay, so this week we'll beat Notre Dame, and then the Clemson Twitter account will post expectations met or something like stupid.
Oh, dude, I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so too.
All
right, Connor Stallions. This story just gets weirder and weirder. We know that this case is currently under investigation at Michigan, but then last night, in like the middle of a snowstorm, Central Michigan was playing who? Somebody, it doesn't even matter. And basically, like Twitter, like I think Josh Pate, I don't know if Josh Pate started it, but Twitter started picking up on this guy that was on. Keep in mind, it was a night game.
Yeah.
It was snowing. And there's this guy on Central Michigan sideline that has on like Ray-Bans. The Ray-Bans that have like the little camera in the corner of them. He was wearing them all game. And then after the game, like it was addressed by Jim McElwain. And he was like, yeah, we don't know who that guy is. We're looking into it. So everyone's like, Connor Stallions is at it again. Because I guess what does Michigan play? One of these teams that was in the game last night?
Michigan State? Yeah, they played them last week. They beat them 49-0.
Was it Michigan State that was playing last night?
No, Michigan State was playing Central Michigan, the thing that he was at, that they're assuming.
Yeah,
all right, let's backtrack for a second. Here's how all this broke down. You've seen all this stuff about Connor Stallions and the potential Spygate rumors or whatever. And this is so funny because this is one of my favorite things to see in sports is the hypothetical, right? Because Bama's not involved. So we can talk about it.
Yeah. And is this guy really, is this his real name? I want to know that first.
Connor Stallions? He better be fucking hacking if his name is Connor Stallions. I'll tell you that right now. And from all the looks of it, he is not. He's like, and he wrote a manifesto.
No problem.
Not a lot of people with big dick energy writing manifestos. I'll say it. So he had, this is already a great show. He had like the more the layers that come out. I just kind of thought from the beginning, I'm like, this is so stupid. There's no way this is like the stuff about the Shane Beamer thing in Tennessee. And then I started looking into it a little bit more. And I'll be honest, man, I kind of hate, the fan in me hates how much the Tennessee thing makes sense. It kind of does. I don't want to fan the Flames. I mean, I do, but like, I don't want to feed into that for Tennessee fans, but like, it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like, they did score 6 points against Florida the week before and then put up 63 against one of the best teams in the country. Like, pretty tough to do. But even if that's not real, like all the stuff that's come out from it, like Michigan has blatantly cheated. They've blatantly cheated. And I don't want to hear anything about, oh, every team does it. Well, you're the idiots that got caught. Like, you're the idiots that got caught. And it blows my mind that the Big Ten hasn't come out and done anything. And I was going to talk about this in the next segment. We talk about the college football rankings, but I'll bring it now because it pertains to it. One of the weirdest comments last night from the college football rankings was the college football playoff chairman saying, yeah, we didn't factor in any of the cheating scandal in Michigan's ranking. And I'm not saying they should have or should not have at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is very odd to me that he said that, because he said it's an NCAA issue, not a CFP issue. And if that's not the most, I don't know, ask your mother mentality about it, like, dude, do you think the NCAA is going to do anything that's like, in general, for a blue blood program that is in the middle of a national title hunt? It's just, the whole thing gets more and more pathetic from the NCAA or from the Michigan standpoint, because you're cheating. Like, we have proof that you have gone to games and filmed stuff, and you're playing the 111th ranked strength of schedule to do that. How fucking like down bad do you have to be to cheat to beat fucking Rutgers? Like, how? I mean, so the Connor Stallions thing comes out, and it is like the theater of all this is so good, because there's a picture and it loosely looks like this guy, right? Like, he's on the sidelines, he's got a beard, but he's wearing these sunglasses, and I'm like, this is not real. This is not real. This is not good. There's no way this is real, but it's so funny. They reach out to Central Michigan to see if they can notify, or they can address who the person is, and like tell the masses basically, like, no, that's so and so. Even if Central Michigan does know who it is, I'm so glad they haven't said anything. Now, like, there's two ways to look at this. If they don't know who it is, that's astounding. Like the fact that they can't
Yeah.
look at the sideline and be like, oh yeah, that's Henry. That kind of says something. But even if they do know who it is, fucking kudos to Central Michigan and Jim McElwain for not saying a word, because that is like you could squash it immediately. And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Guess we'll have to do an investigation internally and see, what's going on here.
Right.
Yeah. I can't wait to see how this story. I feel like there's something else that is going to come out that's just hilarious, like soon.
Yeah.
But that's the best part about college football, dude. This directly relates to on the field stuff, but I just love like the off the field nature of college football. There's nothing like it in any other sport.
No. Also, think about
Pole
this.
Assassin, come on.
What's that?
Pole Assassin, we're a year removed exactly from Pole Assassin.
He posted
on Halloween night when
what?
Oh, did you freeze?
No, maybe I did. I don't know.
Okay.
She posted a picture of her Halloween outfit, which is a lot. But no, I think the whole thing with Connor Stallions and like the reason why I'm kind of buying into it now is that like Josh Pate did post something about it, and he's like, dude. And he zooms in. He's like, "Look at these glasses." Because I saw Jack Mack say something from Barstool, and I am maybe I'll get off this at some point, but it still pissed me off what he said about the Florida coach and baseball this summer and how fucking off base that was. So I'm not gonna trust anything he says. But Josh Pate brings it up, and he's like, "Dude, look at these Wayfarers that he's wearing at night.
Yeah,
well past dusk, and there's a blue light. It's not like there's a blue light coming from the glasses, and you can see it the entire game. And then it's like." He goes, let's not even get into the fact that he's wearing Nike shoes, and Central Michigan is an Adidas-based school. Oh, so that's another thing, which I think might be the most damning part of it. And he goes, and then look at his clipboard. He's holding a clipboard on the sideline. There's nothing written on the papers. There's just nothing on the papers. So the whole thing, and then the best thing I saw from this entire thing was somebody on Twitter took both images, right? When they put the one picture up of Connor Stallions. Then they took a transparent image of his face and slowly put it on top of the other one, and it fit perfectly. And you're like, the Zapruder film like technology that we're going about with this fucking half-baked assistant from Michigan. It is. I love it so much. I love it so much.
It's so good. You just don't get this in any other sport. No. All right, you want to talk about the college football rankings?
Yeah, for a second, then we'll get into the games. I'm sorry we've taken so long. This has been a fun show already, though.
Yeah. The only problem I had, and some of it's just gonna be my own personal bias that comes out, but
oh boy,
committee comes out and says they essentially tell you that schedule really mattered with Ohio State. That's why we put them number 1. And clearly, they could have used the eyeball test and said, yeah, we think Michigan's been so dominant that
which they've done in the past.
Yeah. But instead they and I would have thought they would have had probably Georgia 1 or Michigan. But once they established that they were using resume and like your best wins as a marker, it doesn't then make sense to me that they would put Florida State at 4.
No.
Like if you're going to slide somebody, then slide Michigan down. They have beaten no one.
No.
Like Georgia, like, okay, they don't have any ranked wins at this point. Like they played a team when they were ranked, but Kentucky, like they were saying Kentucky and Florida are their great wins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, like, are those great wins? Like
they didn't call them great, but yeah, they showed the best 2 wins each team had. And that was one of them. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Like if you're, all of this is going to work out for UGA.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to play their schedule. But like, this is one of the things I said last week. Don't tell me about them beating number 26 Florida. We've never ranked the top 26 teams ever.
Right.
Okay. Like, so that part is stupid. The other part is like, well, okay, hold on. If we're talking about the fact that they beat their best wins are 5-3 Kentucky and 5-3 Florida. Okay.
Yeah. And like look, with Georgia, like they're still going to play Missouri, Ole Miss, and
back to back.
So like, yeah, in Tennessee too. So it's like that will come for them. But like when you establish that Ohio State, it's like, oh, they have these great wins, and then you like, and I could still understand Georgia because they came in the back-to-back champs. I get it, but But Michigan has played even a worse schedule than Georgia. And look, Florida State's two of their three best wins have kind of fallen off because Duke QB is pretty much, and then obviously Clemson has kind of just fumbled the bag here. But you still have that LSU win, and then the commissioner for the CFB committee was like, yeah, that was just earlier in the year. It's like, oh, so now it matters when you play a team,
right?
Like we just forgot that Florida State destroyed LSU and held the number one offense in the country to 17 points before garbage time.
Here's another thing that I really like about this too is that they brought this up. They said, oh boy, hold on. They brought this up and they were like they talked about how it mattered that Ohio State played Notre Dame on the road and got a win there, and then they also beat Penn State. I love all that. I agree with what you were saying about Florida State. I did love the fact that, and this is something that hit me yesterday. People keep doing this, and it always cracks me up. It was like we have these rankings, and it just shows everyone's personal agenda so much because, not from the rankings, but from fans. Because fans will come out here and say, "Oh, well, I saw one last night, a Bama fan. Ohio State hasn't played anybody." What? They played at Notre Dame and won, and then they played Penn State at home. And then one of my favorite things that happens, oh, well, so-and-so could have beat them. Well, then why didn't they fucking schedule it? I guess, there's a Michigan fan I mentioned the other day about talking shit about them being able to beat Bama. And all I could think of the entire time was, okay, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see because what you did was schedule the 111th ranked strength of schedule in the country as of right now. And you don't play a ranked opponent. You're the only team in the top 6 that hasn't played it or beaten a ranked opponent yet this season. Okay. Not just hasn't beaten one, hasn't played one. Okay. Yeah. Then you talk about the fact that it's like, well, they would be able to beat this team, and this team's not even that good. And it's like that win. So what they've been doing for Florida State for the past month, Tyler, is saying over and over and over, they barely beat Boston College. Boston College has won like 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Right.
Like they're going to go to a bowl now.
They're probably going to go to a bowl now. They've beaten 3 games in a row. And then the committee chairman last night said, he goes, that it's, they also were playing in the red bandana game, which is a really big game. And I thought that was very, very interesting because it's like, man, they did barely beat so-and-so, but it always cracks me up when we have to start getting to the metric of, well, they barely beat this team. They won. They won. Yeah.
And I mean, well, we won't have to get into that, but
no,
I mean,
we will.
Yeah.
What has Florida State done in the game since then?
They've barely allowed any opponents to score in the second half. They're top 10, I think, and both offensively and defensively in terms of the metrics, maybe top 15 for defense, but they've been really good. They've been crushing opponents.
They've won every game by like 30 points.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And look, every team, I feel like every year, the top 4 teams, they all go through a game that shouldn't have been a struggle.
Right.
And the good ones pull it out, and the bad ones end up getting upset. Or not bad ones, but just the not the elite ones.
Yeah.
I think Florida State's in that top tier. It seems to me that the playoff committee is viewing Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan as maybe a further tier than they are at this point.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I do like the fact that I kind of like the fact they're breaking it up into tiers in terms of I could somewhat understand if you're Oklahoma why you'd be frustrated since they beat Texas. Texas beat Bama, so they're ahead of Bama. Oklahoma is somehow a spot behind both. Like, okay. Yeah. The loss to Kansas you have ranked in the top 25, so doesn't really help your case. I didn't have that much of an issue with anything I saw outside of I like what you're saying about the FSU part. I get it. I don't know why FSU continues to get like 0.
It's fine. Just win your games. You're not going to get left out. Now, Florida State doesn't have. They don't have the luxury of losing a game. So
yeah, they do have the luxury of playing the ACC, Tyler.
That is fine.
So, but no, the only issue I had, I didn't like the fact that USC was still ranked. I thought that was stupid. But I looking at the way that everything was scheduled, or laid out and organized, I totally understood the whole thing about like I love the fact that Mizzou is ahead of LSU because they only have 1 loss instead of 2 losses, so they should be ahead of LSU despite losing to LSU. I like the way the committee did that with tiers, and then I also like the fact that like when you talk about like how you really shouldn't overreact, and it's kind of it's like in our best interest that people do overreact. It's what we do for a living. But more so than I think in any years past, it's very, very clear this is all going to work itself out because everyone seems like they're going to play each other and it'll all be fun. So let's get into some games.
Let's do it. Where do you want to start here?
Well, we got Carolina coming on in 10 minutes, so let's get to at least one game before then. Let's see. You know, why don't we start here? I think this is a pretty interesting game. Or is that stupid since it's
12 p.m. on ESPN.
Yeah.
Texas A&M at number 10, Ole Miss. Ole Miss currently a 3-point favorite at home. Total is 54.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss is in the thick of the SEC West race. They have Georgia next week. They've won 4 straight since they lost to Alabama 24-10.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. The defensive numbers look a lot better since the beginning of the year, but they haven't exactly played a juggernaut of offenses over the last 3 weeks. Arkansas, Auburn, and Vandy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much to really put into those numbers, but one thing that they have done is, we were talking earlier in the year about how it was just crazy that they couldn't run the ball.
Right.
Considering they have Judkins, and over the last 3 games, they're averaging 228 yards on the ground. Actually, that's in the last 4. They're third in the SEC in total offense. A&M to me is, I think they're more impressive defensively than offensively.
Oh yeah.
They lead the SEC in total defense. They're third in scoring defense. What's your feel on this game?
So I don't think this is a hot take by any means. Hold on. This is Caroline. I don't think it's a hot take by any means. I think this game will speak more volumes about what or where Lane Kiffin is the head coach this week than I think next week against Georgia will. Because, and maybe that sounds stupid because they're expected to lose when they go to Georgia. Here's what I really, really like about this game for A&M's standpoint. A&M's got nothing to lose. They're supposed to lose this game. You're on the road. The fans might not like it if you go on the road and lose your 4th game against a ranked opponent in the top 11 or top 10.
Yeah.
But here's one thing that I haven't really understood from Kiffin. I thought he learned his lesson after the game against Alabama, and that is he kind of went into this whole thing for that entire week where he trolled Saban, and we love to see it, and we think it's funny and all that kind of shit. But at the same time, it didn't really work out well for him. It didn't seem like they were very focused. 3 years, including this one, the last 3 years, we've seen Ole Miss start the season 6-1 or 7-0, and then fall off the map. 2021, they didn't really do that. They went to the Sugar Bowl. They had a 10-win season with Matt Corral. I think this Ole Miss team is more similar to those teams because I think they have that more gritty leadership from their quarterback position. I think like Jackson Dart is a fucking gamer, right? Like he's going to like put his body in line. He's a very, very good leader. He's charismatic. He kind of like takes on some of the personality of his coach, but not too much. Well, I don't know why Kiffin has come out and started talking all this shit. I don't get it. I don't know why he would have done that.
Yeah, I think I know why he does it against Bama because he knows that it gets directly to Saban, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he just thinks that's funny. Maybe he's just really confident in this game. I don't know.
Well,
you're right. I mean, you think you'd want to back off that after how it worked out for you last time, only scoring 10 points against Alabama.
It also, I'm just not realizing this is going to sound stupid. What are you doing? Oh,
just fixed my headphones.
But like, I just not realized too. I mean, there is a big difference between trying to get into Saban's head versus getting into Kiffin or to Jimbo's head. Like he could just be fucking all up in Jimbo's head right now. We don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I think it's easy to get into Jimbo's head.
Yeah.
Considering he held a press conference about a comment that Saban made at a booster event.
Do you think that if Ole Miss wins, because their social media team's awesome.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Halloween's over. Do you think this Christmas tree makes an appearance in the social media game if they win?
Man, no, I don't think they'll go there.
Okay. What do you think about this game? Give me a prediction on it.
Ole Miss 5-0 at home this season. They're 2-0 against the spread and straight up against A&M the last 2 years. Crazy stat and we know Jimbo just can't win on the road. At least the last couple years. Crazy stat I found: Texas A&M hasn't covered a game as a 3-point or less underdog since 2017.
What?
Yeah, so if they're an underdog or
Where are
by 3
you
or
doing
less.
your fucking research? Like, it's so much better than mine.
So I'm gonna have to take Ole Miss 28-24.
Okay, I don't know why you didn't tell me the answer to my question, but
I
I
can give you a
like
kicker.
this spot for A&M, man. I really do. I think that this is the kind of shit that Jimbo tends to do, where he, against all odds, will go on the road and beat someone he shouldn't and give himself that extension. You start looking at that schedule, who's left on there for him to do that against? I don't think there's many people to do it. I could be so far off base here. I think that A&M's defense is a lot better than people understand. And Edgerrin Cooper is probably the best linebacker in the country. If you don't get out of there, Pepper, she's getting in the Texas Pete hot popcorn.
Oh, you have more?
Yeah, I've only gone through like 6 of the bags. How
You
many
got
bags
6?
have you gone through?
I only got like 3.
Oh, I got like 10.
Oh,
I got like 5 apiece.
jeez.
I sold the fucking sponsorship. It's like, I mean, so
Oh, you
calm
did?
down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's because
Yeah.
Anyway, back to what we're talking about. I think that A&M is in a good spot here. I don't like the fact that you brought up that stat. That's a crazy good stat.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I just wonder if the focus is there for Ole Miss. And in the past, this is the kind of game that they tend to drop. So I'm going to lean on history on this one. As much as I don't like it, I'm going to say A&M goes on the road and wins. And I'm so not confident about that. Max Johnson, you know how I feel about Max Johnson. It is just the guy trying to get off the train tracks repeatedly. But I think A&M goes in and gets something stupid. Blocked punt like Anaya Smith gets one in the return game. And I'll say I think that they win 31-30.
All right, plus 135 on the money line.
That's it? See, Vegas knows something. Vegas has to know something.
Unless it's changed. I've got some.
I'll tell you something that's changed.
For the next game. Oh, boy. Okay, here we go.
Damn it.
All right,
is there a way to have her add her to the show, but like not on the actual screen? Because she's wearing a Britney Spears mic, and I don't like it.
No, just put her on screen.
Boy.
What is wrong with my Britney Spears mic?
Nothing. This is my favorite megachurch pastor look that anyone's had on our show. So I think
headset. This is what we use in real radio, Marlon.
Oh, coming out firing.
Out here.
We are joined now by sports version of Gwyneth Paltrow, Caroline Fenton. Yes, you're welcome. For all jokes aside, welcome in. We've been trying to get you on the well. I think I'll say we try to get you in the podcast, but I never really reached out. We just have wanted you to come on the podcast. So
no, like I should have known. I should have known.
Or I would have reached out sooner if you didn't call me a Bama apologist on national radio.
I said it out of a place of my heart of appreciation and love. I don't call just anyone apologists, okay?
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Just
the apologists that I love and respect.
I appreciate that.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
All right. So we are joined by Caroline Fenton, and like the resume is how about you introduce yourself? Because Locked On, SiriusXM, you're on radio in Nashville. Like, how do you want to introduce yourself outside of wearing a Danny Cannell turtleneck?
It's a Steve Jobs chic is how I would prefer it to be called. Thank you so much. So that's the number one bullet point on my resume.
Yeah, love that.
Is really trying to take on the female Steve Jobs look. Thank you. That's it. That's the resume. You know, I hosted a show in Nashville from 11 to 2 on 102.5 The Game. I do work with SiriusXM, College Sports Radio, and SEC Radio, and I'm the host of Locked On LSU, and I don't sleep.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot. All right, speaking of not sleeping, let's just get into it because I was on radio this morning with your boy PB and Dari, and they were like, when you go to sleep at night and have nightmares, and I legitimately had, I don't want to call it a nightmare, but I had one of those like sports fan dreams where you like, I don't know if you guys ever had this. I wake up and like it's the third quarter and I've somehow forgot the game was on and Bama was down by like 20. So that doesn't happen to you, Tyler?
No, I do. I have I'm back in college and I oversleep like pretty much all semester. And then I show up and there's a test and I'm like, didn't even realize. But
I've got one all the time.
Yeah.
Like games that we're not a part of, not our future and tests that we're taking in college. No, so
these are more important things like football.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
your initial thoughts on this game, because this is always like it sounds so cliche, but it's so accurate with this one. It's always a war between these two teams. It's always a really, really good game. And especially over the last 5 years. I love throwing out the stat that Bama has only lost twice in the past 13 games. LSU fans love to remind me, and with good reason. They've won 2 of the last 4. What are your initial thoughts going into this one?
I mean, it's elite on elite, and it's bad on bad. So whether you're a fan of good football or you are an absolute football sicko, this is going to have something to offer for you. I mean, LSU top offense in the country. I think Alabama has an elite defense, one of the best in the SEC, one of the best in the country. But I think it honestly could come down to which bad is playing worse.
Right.
I mean, like LSU secondary is truly atrocious. They're out 3 starters. And whenever Brian Kelly announced that they'd be down their 3 starting corners, Zy Alexander, Denver Harris, and Deuce Chestnut, I think that the entire LSU fan base just went into a tizzy. But I'm thinking, well, it was awful with them. All respect in the world to them. So it's like you're losing what your weakness is. And yes, I very much so understand that it could be worse than what we've seen. But if we're down 3 corners, well, I think that's better than being down 3 receivers when the only way that you win football games is offensively. But I think it comes down to one, who's winning the battles in the trenches, which is like a really unique take with an SEC game, right? Like, can Alabama's defensive line get to Jaden Daniels and stop the run? Like, can they limit what Jaden Daniels wants to do with his arm, with his legs? Haven't seen anyone do it yet this season, but also LSU hasn't seen a defense like this. I think on the other side, it's can Mason Smith, Jordan Jefferson, and Harold Perkins force Jalen Milroe to make decisions that he doesn't want to make? Like those 3, especially those 2, Harold Perkins and Mason Smith, like they've been non-factors really for the most part for LSU this season. And we're talking about going into this season, who I thought were 2 of the best defensive players in the country. I mean, like future first rounders in the NFL draft. So are they able to get pressure on Jalen Milroe, force him to turn the ball over, and, you know, try and limit the deep ball as much as possible, so you don't have 3 true freshman corners picking up, a majority of the brunt work.
Right.
If LSU can pull this game off, do you consider Jaden Daniels? Sorry, Chris. I mean,
Tyler, already.
We're playing hypotheticals. I know we don't typically do that with Alabama.
No, we don't.
Alabama's involved, but if LSU were to win this game, does Jaden Daniels become the front runner for the Heisman?
I think he has to, right? Like, I feel like right now, let me take my LSU hat off. I feel like right now he should be the front runner because, I mean, Michael Penix Jr.'s had a rough couple of the last 2 weeks. I mean, J.J. McCarthy is getting quarterback on the best team in college football, benefits of the doubt. But Jaden Daniels has been the most consistent player in all of college football. Like, there's not been a week where Jaden Daniels has taken his foot even slightly off the gas. With a bruised rib against Missouri, for crying out loud. Like, LSU is averaging 550 yards a game, and that's obviously due to Jaden Daniels' arm and a huge part of his legs. Like, no other quarterback in America is doing what Jaden Daniels is doing. But I don't think in this era of college football, like I know RG3, I know Lamar Jackson, that they won Heisman trophies for teams that weren't college football playoff contenders. But like in this modern Heisman era, you can't have more than 2 losses. And even 2 losses, I think, is a stretch. You can't have 2 losses and end up, hoisting the Heisman Trophy at the end of the season. I think that's what screwed over Bryce Young and a Hendon Hooker last year. 2 of the best quarterbacks in America that didn't even get invites to New York. So I think now he should be the front runner. But if you go into Bryant-Denny and you beat Alabama, and if LSU beats Alabama, it'll be largely because of what Jaden Daniels did, because he had a Heisman-esque moment. I don't know how you can make an argument for anyone else in the country. Record be damned. He would have the best resume in all of college football.
I've been banging this drum for a couple of weeks now that I don't think that LSU is out of it, because what's going to happen in November is like it's not like the Derrick Henry thing as much, but like remember that game in 2015 is when Fournette came in with the overwhelming favorite to win the Heisman, right? He's averaged like 191 yards a game. I mean, if you don't remember, I'll refresh your memory. They had 19 carries for 31 yards, and Alabama won the game. It was one of my favorite games of all time.
I was there. Thank you so much. Thanks.
You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. Hope you guys stopped by to
time. I was 18, so no, I did not.
Fair enough.
Did stop by the Sigma Chi house though. Had a great time.
So, but the thing is with Jaden Daniels in this game, like you said, like if he wins, if LSU wins, I do think it'll be because of Jaden Daniels. If they win this game, close out the rest of the season, and then go somehow beat Georgia, which I think Georgia's beatable, and I think especially with LSU's offense, I don't see how he doesn't end up in New York. And you're right though too. He should be the clear front runner. Going into the season, I kept thinking like, all right, how's he gonna top 28 touchdowns and 3 interceptions? And we're starting the month of November off, and he's at 30-3 right now. So I think I completely agree with the Jaden Daniels thing. Now, piggybacking off that.
Wait, before we move off Jaden Daniels, Nick Saban, I'm gonna give you a little trivia question, Chris and Caroline. If you feel free to jump in,
Drew
if you
Brees.
feel like you know the answer. Okay, damn it.
That's what you get. You do this to me every single time. When I say, hey, Tyler, guess how many times
That was
so-and-so lost? You're like, 4.
I didn't even ask the question though.
I knew you were going with
That
it.
was impressive. You knew where I was going with that, though. That's the last quarterback that Saban has beat in consecutive years, or has beat Saban in consecutive years. Drew Brees.
Louisiana has just been giving
Purdue.
Nick Saban nightmares for years now.
Okay. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, like that whole state was like gone and forgotten outside of having like, movies being filmed in it for quite some time. Like unless Saban doesn't come back, they'd let eight losing seasons in 11 years before he got there. People forget.
We don't forget.
Okay,
but,
good.
Yeah. I mean, hey, my dad played college football at Tennessee, and he always likes to remind me, we beat Alabama every year I was there. So let's not act like everybody's been on a pedestal for the entirety of their histories.
I'm glad we didn't have that conversation.
Let's get her dad on the pod next week.
Absolutely. He would love to hop on.
Let's get both our dads on the pod next week.
Let's do a dad pod.
Yeah, right. Okay, so here's my question. Piggyback on the Jaden Daniels comment about if they win, it's going to be because of him. Let's say it's not. Let's say it's something like I'm trying to think of a year where this has changed. But if it's not Jaden Daniels, right? If it's not Jaden Daniels, who is it that wins this game? Because look at 2019. Like I think the stat I brought up earlier, they've only won twice in the last 13 times. Like they've also only scored more than 17 2 times. And they've won both those games, which I feel like that's a pretty good stat for LSU because they're going to score more than 17 points. But anyway, if it's not Jaden Daniels, who is it for LSU?
I plead the fifth. Like seriously, I maybe Logan Diggs. Like if Alabama just takes everything away from Jaden Daniels, which if that's the case, you deserve to win the game. Like if you take Jaden Daniels completely out, I guess it would have to be Logan Diggs because he's been, of course, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Mason Taylor and that receiving core is going to get a majority of the face time because it's sexy to talk about receivers. It's sexy to talk about a passing game. It's not very sexy to talk about a run game, but Logan Diggs has almost, I feel like, been the sort of unsung hero of this LSU offense. I mean, comparing this 2023 offense to the 2019 offense, which I really was very hesitant to do.
Right.
But if you look at it, it's very comparable. I mean, that 2019 offense was averaging like 561 yards a game. This LSU offense in 2023 is averaging like 555.
Mm-hmm.
This offense is running the ball significantly more than they were in 2019. Part of that is due to Jaden Daniels.
Right.
Or Joe Burrow wasn't immobile, obviously, but his legs weren't as much of a tool as Jaden Daniels are. Another huge part of that is Logan Diggs. That he's the workhorse back, that he's the back that if you need 3 yards, well, he could probably get you 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe Logan Diggs. Defensively, I guess it would probably be Harold Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Harold Perkins take over a game before, last year against Arkansas. Now, this Alabama team is not Arkansas. It's going to be significantly more difficult to take over a game in Bryant-Denny against this Alabama team. But with this Alabama offensive line, it's given up 35 sacks a game. I mean, we've been waiting for a Harold Perkins breakout. Yeah. It could come this week when this coaching staff has finally figured out that, hey, maybe we should put our best defensive player in a spot where he can be his best player, which is just, crazy to think that would be a smart move to make. Yeah. That we figured out in week 9.
Yeah, I've been baffled at how they've used him. I haven't really paid as close attention the last few weeks. Are they moving him up like more into like a stand-up rusher type role?
Yeah, so after the Ole Miss game, when they gave up 700 yards of offense and 50 points, Brian Kelly was like, we need to make some sort of changes. And I'm like,
yeah, no shit.
Yes, Brian, that's correct. You should be making some changes. Good job, Brian. That's what you make $10 million a year for. So they switched to 4-down defense.
Well, easy, Tyler from Spartanburg.
Tyler.
Pardon.
Tyler from
What
Spartanburg.
are we paying
him
you
$10
for?
million a year.
This team's at least not 4-4, I will say.
Yeah.
But they switched to a 4-down defense, which is at least looked like it has served this team well because its defensive strengths are in the defensive line and the linebackers.
Right.
So it's allowing Harold Perkins to kind of float around a little bit more. And Brian Kelly said in his press conference today, he said, we'll use Harold as a spy if we need to use him as a spy. You know, we'll use him as a jack linebacker if we need to use him as a jack linebacker, which is what Harold Perkins does best. Just throw him out on the field and then let him, like, you know, see ball, eat ball is really just what he does best. So they have been, I think, better defensively, but I don't know if that's because of the defensive changes. I don't know if that's because they brought in Pete Jenkins to advise this defensive line. I also don't know if it's because they've played Auburn and Army, two of the worst offenses in all of college football, and that's going to make your defense look a little bit better. So maybe a little bit of everything combined, but I would say Harold Perkins has been used better and has been more of a factor for this defense probably in the last couple of weeks than he has in the first 2 weeks of the season.
We joke around a lot, like in general, but we also joked around a lot earlier about LSU fans, what they think about Saban, their thoughts about Bama in general. I'm not making a joke when I say this. I think it's a very valid question. Rank these 3 wins for LSU fans this year.
Okay.
Women's college basketball national championship, men's baseball national championship, beating Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa back-to-back times for the first time in 15 years. Where would you rank that?
Beating Bama in back-to-back years 1.
Great.
Probably women's basketball national championship 2, baseball 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I would say
that is how much it means, though. I think it's a massive game.
And I think it's also what it means, like what doors it opens up for LSU, like beating Alabama, because the SEC championship game is still on the table. You lose this game to Bama, that's completely out of question. Heisman Trophy for Jaden Daniels. You lose this game, I think that's probably out of the question. You beat Bama, he's probably the front runner. And like, I don't think it's crazy that LSU could potentially still have a path to the college football playoff.
No.
If they beat Bama, win out, potentially beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. Now LSU still has to beat Florida. LSU still has to beat Texas A&M. And you still have to beat Georgia in the SEC freaking championship game. But I had this discussion today. I'll ask you guys. LSU wins out, beats Georgia in the SEC championship game. What's more likely? Both Georgia and LSU get in the CFP or neither?
Oh, neither.
I think it's neither too.
Yeah.
Like there's still a path maybe, but like a 1-loss Oregon gets in over a 2-loss LSU. You know, a 1-loss either Ohio State or Michigan, depending on who wins that head-to-head matchup, probably gets in over a 2-loss LSU. So I think just the field is tough.
No.
Oregon
is going to make the playoff. I if there's a bet to be put on that, I would bet a lot of money on that.
If Washington goes undefeated all year and they lose to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, and then LSU wins out, would you Washington or LSU?
Between those two, you'd have to make a case, I guess, for Washington because they also would have beaten. Would they play Utah? I know they would have beaten USC this weekend, which the committee thinks is like a ranked opponent or should be a ranked opponent for some reason. But I agree with you, Caroline. Like I think it says more than anything that like I tell you where the SEC could get like completely fucked out of this, and it would actually be awesome for like the fans until it gets to the playoff. Is what if Mizzou beats Georgia and the SEC championship game ends up being an LSU Mizzou rematch, like
or Mizzou Ole Miss? Imagine that.
I don't even know if I'd watch it. I'd probably have to be sent there to come. I don't even know if I would do it.
Yeah, I would like Mizzou Ole Miss would be like a regular season out of division matchup that I'm like, maybe if there's no better games on, I guess I'll watch that one. Like
the 7:30
I feel
SEC Network game.
11 a.m. on SEC Network. Yeah. But I feel bad that like in this, no, I don't feel bad. And when we talk about the SEC West, we talk about LSU and Alabama and completely ignore the fact that Ole Miss beat LSU head to head, and Ole Miss right now is above LSU in the SEC West rankings, just because we all assume that they're going to mess something up. Can I cuss on here?
It's uncensored, yes.
they're gonna fuck something up because Lane Kiffin always tends to fuck things up late in the season.
They might do it this weekend. Chris just picked Texas A&M outright.
I think Texas A&M is gonna beat Ole Miss.
Yeah, well, I'm falling apart in my picks, if we're being honest. I'm like 8-13 in the last 2 weeks. I don't know what.
Get it together. Goodness.
I don't know. I don't know what. Like I was telling this to Connor the other day. He was like, "Why?" He doesn't cuss, but he was like, "Why did you pick Florida to beat Georgia?" And I go, "Dude, it was the most Michael Scott moment ever. To where it was like, I started a sentence and I didn't even know where I was going. I started the sentence and the pick by going, there's nothing about this Florida team that makes me think they can win. And by the end of my rambling, I was like, Florida 28, Georgia 27, and just RIP to my fucking Twitter mentions. It was awful. It was awful.
Yeah, I heard, I think Chris Childers also picked Florida to win. And anytime I heard someone pick Florida, I thought, you doofuses, have you learned nothing? Do you know nothing about this Georgia team? Every time we count them out, they turn around and drop 40 plus. Like everyone thought Kentucky was going to beat Georgia. I was like,
let's not go that far. I wasn't that dumb. It was a home game. Kentucky sucks.
I don't know. Kentucky.
I think we've kind of like become an anti-Kentucky podcast in a way.
Yeah,
we just crushed Will Levis all last year. We're like, this guy sucks, and then now we're like, they're not like a cute up and coming story anymore. It's like, every year you go like 8-4. That's cool. Like you're not.
It's the Mark Stoops special. You know, you go 8-4, 9-3 on a good year. And if you don't win games, well, then great. By the time that you are, 5-4 on the year, then Kentucky basketball starts. So nobody really cares. And I think Mark Stoops has the best job in America.
He does. Doesn't he give a year extension every time he wins 6 games or something like that? Like, say, okay, sure.
The bar is on the floor.
That's pretty bad.
Don't we want more people?
Could have just totally made that up, but
I don't think that is
it's something like that. I'll look it up.
Contract.
If you win 2 games, you get $10 million.
Sam Pittman is fucking seething for not making that deal. All right, one more question before we get your prediction on the game. This weekend in the town I believe that you live in Nashville, correct?
I do. I live in Nashville.
Okay, so actually 2 questions for you back to back here. One, better uniform. LSU. I think the LSU uniform is great. I think it's a little bit overrated, to be honest. I like the purple jerseys more than anything. Just hear me out. Hold on.
What?
Purple jersey, white helmet is the most underrated uniform in all of college football. All of college football. Besides,
you have lost your ever-loving mind. The purple jerseys are trash.
Okay.
Trash.
Okay. Anyway, better uniforms.
The white jerseys, white pants are better than purple jersey, white pants.
Oh, the ones that don't even match the fucking color schemes with the.
Hey,
the stripes don't match, and that's a problem. I will.
Caroline, what's your favorite combo for LSU?
So I don't know if this is allowed, but my favorite combo of all time. We played Mississippi State in 2018. They wore all whites with purple chrome helmets.
Oh,
and they only did it once, and it was so sick. It was so cool.
The jerseys were different.
The numbers were kind of funky. They were kind of like an alien font almost, but they were super cool. But I'm for the most part very pro just classic white jersey, yellow pants, yellow helmet. Like that's the look. Like when you think of LSU football, that's what you think of.
Definitely.
Okay, before you yelled at me for no fucking reason at all. The LSU home uniform, I guess it was home or away, whatever. Uniform or the powder blue Texan Oiler uniforms they threw out last week. Titans, whatever.
Those are nice.
Those
were nice.
Yeah. It was
probably Oilers. Honestly. And I think I lean Oilers jerseys just because I think the Titan jerseys are so bad. Like I do not like that. I don't like the colors. I don't like the font of the numbers. I think the Oilers the best color combination in sports is red, white, and powder blue. Like when Ole Miss wears the powder blues, and especially with the American flag in the helmet, I'm just like, yes, America. I love it.
I like when Tulane wears the powder blues too.
Yeah.
Tulane has the best uniforms in sports, best logo in sports. The cute little wave, the Y iota.
Although if you're a football team, you don't really want your mascot to be cute.
Yeah.
Touche. Yeah.
Looks like an amoeba.
He does a little bit like a germ.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a Mucinex commercial, but like cute. I got it. That's awesome.
But cute and angry.
That's right. So the follow-up to that before we get the score prediction. This weekend in Nashville, I mean, a pretty close and fierce historical SEC rivalry between Auburn and Vandy. All-time series is tied, Caroline. Talk me out of putting any substantial amount of money on Vandy covering the spread at least against Auburn. Auburn sucks.
Vanderbilt sucks.
Well, yeah, that's also fair. So don't do it.
Do not do that. I mean, Vanderbilt is going with a 2-quarterback system on Saturday.
That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
Although Auburn goes with a 2-quarterback system every week too.
Well, I wouldn't
hopefully
say
they learned their lesson last week.
Yeah, Thorne was pretty good last week, but he
was pretty good last week. And crazy when you stick with one quarterback and let him actually, ride the game out, you win. Crazy how that works.
All I want usually when we have guests on is to say things that I agree with. So this has backfired tremendously, but we will close with this, Caroline.
I'm never getting invited back.
Well, you said the F word twice, so that's got you in our good graces. But give us your prediction, and I mean, like, you can give us because I struggle with this every week. You can give us one of two options: put on your fan hat and just go full on what you think is going to happen, what you want to happen between the game, or be as objective as possible. However you want to do it, you can say whatever words you want to. Because, like, for instance, what I said last year was,
can't say GD.
Can't say GD. But, like, I will tell you before you say it, like, my thoughts on it is I'm scared to death of LSU. And more than anything, I wish this game was being played in Death Valley because Alabama's only lost 6 fucking times in Death Valley since the Eisenhower administration. Now you go ahead. The floor is yours.
2 of the last 4, Marler. I mean, like, we can talk about ancient history all we want, but let's talk about the here and now. Okay. I'll give you my fan and objective prediction here. My fan prediction here is, look, Alabama's defense is the best that LSU's seen. But there's not been a single defense on LSU's schedule that's been able to at least slow down this offense for a full 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Also haven't seen Alabama play a full 60 minutes so far this season.
True.
Like, I look back at that Tennessee game, like, LSU might be up by 30 at half. Because when Joe Milton overthrows receivers in the end zone, Jaden Daniels hits him in the end zone. That if Alabama decides to not show up until the second half, well, LSU may have already run away with it to, like, an unattainable point where, like, Jalen Milroe just really can't do anything. Where LSU just kind of is able to, I don't want to say coast, because every time a team is up at the half against Alabama and they coast in the second half, they end up losing. Ole Miss, A&M, Tennessee. So that's my LSU take, where I think it could still be close, but LSU might want to get this into a situation where they get themselves in a shootout. And, like, I understand LSU lost a shootout earlier this season against Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is a better offense than Alabama. They get into a shootout with Alabama.
Each other on the field, but yeah, that's fair.
Well, fair. Statistically, Ole Miss is a better offense than Alabama. I would take Jackson Dart over Jalen Milroe any day. Yeah. So I would say, like, if it's going to be a shootout, I would take LSU every day, twice on Sunday. My objective take on this is that LSU's defense is just so bad that it doesn't matter if Jalen Milroe turns the ball over. It doesn't matter if, they struggle in their intermediate passing game. If Alabama has the same kind of offensive hiccups that we've really seen them have throughout the entire season, like, this defense is just that bad. That Jalen Milroe can throw it 80 yards downfield into the end zone on every single possession, and there is literally nothing that LSU can do about it. I think LSU's offense is better than Alabama's defense, but Alabama's offense is significantly better than LSU's defense. I don't see a path to where LSU is able to hold off Alabama long enough. I still think it would be close. Like, I would say that the score would be 37-34. More points scored. Well, with my fan hat on, LSU wins. With my objective hat on, Alabama wins.
So we'll put you down for Bama. Okay.
Put me down for Bama.
Okay. Well, I don't want to give away my prediction. I'll tell you it afterwards, but because we'll do our breakdown when you're off here. But mine's the opposite of what you're saying. Just so you know, I'll let you know the rest of it after we're done. Yeah, I don't want to ruin the surprise.
It's an emotional hedge.
It feels like it at this point. It does.
Yeah.
It does. But
I'm probably thinking the same way. That, like,
I think
if
you're
pick
both
Alabama.
Hedging.
Yeah, it's 100% what we're doing. I mean, we're a couple apologists over here. But if I say, like, if I remind myself, if I get myself too excited about how good this LSU offense is, and then, Alabama's defense is able to, limit what LSU wants to do offensively, then I'm just going to be sad. And I don't want to be sad. I want to set myself up to be sad. And then I can either be happy or say, well, I thought this was going to happen all along.
Based my whole life off that. It's great.
That's how I am with my team.
Yeah.
All right, Caroline, tell everyone where all the places they can find you on the web and social. I don't know why I just said the web, but you know what I mean. Go ahead, take it away from here, and we will have you back on. We really appreciate you coming on. It's been a lot of fun.
You can find me on Twitter at CarolineFenton1. If you're in Nashville, you can find me from 11 to 2 p.m. on 102.5 The Game. You can find me on SiriusXM SEC Radio from 2 to 5 p.m. Central on Wednesday and Thursday afternoons.
Awesome. All right, we appreciate it. We will talk to you soon.
Y'all are the best. Thank you. Happy to hop on whenever.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, now that she's gone, Tyler, damn it. All right, give me your breakdown, man, because I'm not kidding. You go first.
So the bet I love for the game is the over.
Yeah.
So LSU has hit the over in all 8 games this season, 12 straight games dating back to last year. And I think Caroline hit it on the nose. I think if you've got the same type of score, but the opposite, you hit it on the nose. Only once has the winning team in an LSU game this season scored under 41 points. So it's going to be a shootout. I hate for LSU that they've got 3 DBs out. Caroline makes a good point. It wasn't working out with them, so maybe you get something different. Maybe you get another guy that hasn't even played DB to try to play a DB. I don't know. It's desperate times, desperate measures. Mekhi Wingo was announced that he's going to be out probably for the year. That's a major piece on the D-line that they're missing. I don't trust that they're using Perkins in the right way still. So I think Bama's got enough at home to overcome all that. I'm going to take Bama 35, LSU 30.
All right, here's the thing. LSU has been held under 30 points one time this year. It was against Florida State. They've been held under 40 points twice. That's it. You always say defense travels, run game travels. This offense is going to travel. There's nothing about this team or the numbers from any of this stuff that will show you, oh, they don't play as well on the road versus at home. After that Florida State game, and let's be very clear here, Alabama's not Florida State. Alabama is a good team. Alabama is a good football team. They play really, really sound defense. They can do some things on offense, but this is not a playoff-worthy team, and this is not a team that is going to be able to get into a track meet with LSU. And if you don't believe me, let's think about that Texas game. Now, Texas is different because Texas plays much better defense than LSU. But I tell you what, it's a high-flying offense with weapons everywhere. That was a home game, and you had it circled on the calendar and all that kind of stuff, and you came out flat, and you didn't look great. I think the same thing that happened in that Texas game happens in this game to Alabama, but I think that it happens in a way that just is more high-scoring. And what happened in that Texas game was you claw back, you take a lead into the fourth, and then you fall apart. You give up 21 points in the fourth quarter where, like, I don't know if that's the breakdown or the meltdown that happens with this team going into like late in the game. But I will tell you this. There's no part of me that thinks Alabama is going to be able to put up like if it gets to a point where you're in the fourth quarter and you're down, we haven't had to see Jalen Milroe keep coming back. You're going to have to keep winning the way they've been winning. So maybe that happens. Maybe you do get a couple of turnovers. But this is an offense that we haven't seen that from. Jaden Daniels doesn't do that. Like, and he hasn't done it in 2 years now. And you start looking at some of his numbers as like a quarterback. Like one of the things I kept holding on to is that year where he had 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But he doesn't have 10 interceptions in the other 4 years combined where he started games. So, I mean, he is a very good quarterback. He is the most athletic game manager. He glides. He's just so silky with everything that he does. And I don't think that this Alabama team, I like in the past, like maybe that 2019 game, you kind of kept thinking like, can they get to 40? Who can get to 40 first? And they both got to 40, but LSU was ahead at 40, right? 46-41 final.
Right.
Can both teams get to 30? I just told you There's only one game all year that LSU hasn't gotten to 30, and they got to 28. I don't know if Alabama's offense can get to 30, no matter how bad LSU's defense is. Because I don't know if Tommy Rees, we haven't seen them put together games where they've just been like just on all cylinders. Like we've seen them make second half adjustments, but I like what Caroline said. I mean, I didn't like it, but I agree with what Caroline said. I don't know if this team, if they are down early, is able to come back. And I think it'll be close for a while. And I think at some point, Jalen Milroe makes a bad mistake late in the third or the fourth quarter, and that 3-point deficit turns into 10. And I think LSU wins 38-28.
38-28.
Yeah, there's my emotional hedge.
There it is. All right. Well, we're already an hour 10 in. We have like 10 games left to cover.
Let's go here. Let's just start getting onto it.
All right, Washington, USC. Let me get to that. 7:30 on ABC. Number 5, Washington. Number 20, USC. USC, a 3.5-point underdog at home. Total 76.5. Washington still undefeated, but hasn't been all easy. They snuck by Stanford last week, 42-33. And Chris, that was their widest margin of victory in their last 4 games.
That's insane.
31-24 against Arizona, 36-33 against Oregon, 15-7 against Arizona State. They have won 15 straight games, which is second in the nation to Georgia.
Yeah.
USC ranks among the 8 teams producing more points per contest than Washington. They're the nation's second leading output in offense, 45.9 points per game. This is going to be a high scoring. That's why the total is 76.5. This game to me comes down to how many stops Washington can get, because I'm pretty sure USC's defense isn't going to have any. So I'm going to take Washington 42, USC 34.
I think this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think it's going to be a great game. It'll be interesting to see what this USC team does now that, like, you don't have anything to play for. Like, you had nothing to play for. You almost lost last week. It's in the Coliseum, right?
Yep.
So I think that this is a game where you're going to see. We've seen Washington struggle, like you said, the past couple games. I think they're going to struggle early. It's something that's been like uncharismatic or uncharacteristic, I guess. I mean, of them. Michael Penix has come out like it's not like the offense has been flat, but you've seen it at times, like the Arizona game where you're up. I think it was like 21-10 or 21-13 in the first half, and you're like, man, that's kind of like how did they get a slow start? They got a slow start because they only had 3 possessions in the first half. I think they'll have chances to have more possessions. I think this is a game that you're going to look up at the end of it, and it won't be as dramatic as that Baker Mayfield Patrick Mahomes game. It sucks that this game is on at 7:30 because
Bama LSU's on at that time. Yeah.
So I'm not going to be able to watch any of it, but it's going to be a lot of fun to look at this. There's just nothing about USC's defense. They couldn't stop Cal. They gave up 49 to Cal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to give up so many points to this team. So I'm going to take Washington to win, but there's not a lot that Washington's defense has shown me, and I will say this too. I think that this is a game for Lincoln Riley that he's really got to show who he is as a coach. Because I don't know if he's I'm watching this baseball game right now. It's been really, really good. 0-0 right now and elimination. What's a clinching game?
Yeah.
I think this is a game for Lincoln Riley that I think we're going to learn a lot about his character. Whether it's not, is he going to roll over and die like he's kind of done in the past? Because if they come out and lay an egg, you can't convince me he's not going to Chicago. You can't.
With Caleb?
Yeah. So I don't think they lay an egg. I don't think they're good enough on defense to stop this offense. I think this is a perfect get-right game for Washington, but I do think it's a very high-scoring game. I'm going to say Washington wins 49-45.
All right. One night game that you will be able to watch, 10:30 FS1, number 9. I'm actually really excited for this game. Number 19 UCLA at Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona only a 2.5-point underdog. 50.5 is the total. Arizona looking for its 3rd consecutive win over a ranked team. Arizona's just been a great story this year. They've been really good. It's going to be tough going here. The Bruins have a 10th nationally ranked total defense. They're only allowing 277.5 yards per game. They're third in sacks in the country, fourth in tackles for loss. So it's going to be a tough test for the redshirt freshman quarterback Noah Fafita, but he's been awesome. He's played his first 4 games of his career against ranked teams, including Washington, USC. Almost beat USC. Almost beat Washington, although they didn't score that many points. But yeah, he's been really good, and he's been freshman of the week in the Pac-12 for 3 weeks in a row, including wins over number 19 Washington State at the time, and then Oregon State, which was number 11. And for UCLA, I think it's Ethan Garbers at quarterback. He's been pretty decent in place of Dante Moore. They lean on the running game though. Carson Steele, TJ Harden. I think this is gonna be a great game. Arizona beat UCLA last year in Pasadena when UCLA was number 9. But I think UCLA, on the strength of that defense, is going to get this one done here. Interesting thing, UCLA's 2 losses at Utah and at Oregon State were a combined 19 points. And Arizona's 3 losses at Mississippi State, which is weird.
Double overtime.
In overtime, Washington and at USC in triple overtime were decided by a total of 16 points. So Arizona's a really good team, but I'm going to take UCLA 31, Arizona 28.
If UCLA scores 31 points in this game, I will get your fucking face tattooed on my body. There's no chance. There's no chance. I think this. Now, I tell you what the only thing holding me back from making this like a lock of the week is I think it's like a 3-point spread, right?
2.5 now, yeah.
Yeah, hammer Arizona. Arizona. The only thing that worries me is they're coming off that win against Oregon State. Let's also not forget they were up by 10 in that game against Oregon State at home. Oregon State scored in the last 2 minutes, or last minute and a half of that game to pull within 3. I think this is a situation where when you talk about Arizona's offense, that quarterback is a lot of fun. Fajitas, what's his name? Chili fajitas?
Burritos.
We're gonna get canceled for this.
Fafita.
For this dad joke. For Fita. Anyway. It's not making fun of the name. It's making fun of the fact that I can't remember the fucking name. No, I think that this is a team where when you look at what Arizona is able to do or what they've done this season, I think I brought this up on the pod on Sunday. They're 5-3, right?
Yeah.
UCLA's had some impressive games and some impressive wins. The Colorado game, like them being able to hold Colorado's offense to 6 points for most of that game was very, very impressive. Probably because Colorado's also a little bit concerned about all their stuff being stolen out of the fucking locker rooms the entire game, which was wild as hell. But here's the thing. We've seen UCLA on the road. You said they've lost those games by 19 points. This is a Chip Kelly offense that scored 7 points on Utah, right? They're going on the road against Arizona. UCLA has been a different team on the road. Arizona coming off the win against Oregon State. Are they still focused? That's my biggest question. But buddy, what was the loss to Washington State?
What they lost?
The 3 losses: Mississippi State, USC, and who?
What was it? Washington. Yeah.
Okay. So they lost to the number 5 team in the country. They lost to USC by like 1, right? Or was it like by 2?
Yeah.
And then they lost on the road. What was the last one? Sorry. On the road at Mississippi State in week 2 by 7 in double overtime.
Yeah.
You could make the case this team should be 7-1.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the most underrated teams in the country. I think UCLA on the road struggles a lot. I think Arizona is going to win this game. I will say 24 to 17. I think this is like the lock of the week for me.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. What do we got next?
I think a sneaky good game is this game.
Yeah.
12 p.m. on Fox, number 23, Kansas State at number 7, Texas. Texas, a 4-point favorite, total 51. We know Malik Murphy's in for Texas. What's crazy about the Big 12 is there is a 5-way tie for first place in the Big 12 right now.
So bad.
Texas is off to his best start since 2009. They dominated BYU last week, although that one was a little. Malik Murphy was good, but he wasn't. Yeah. He made some mistakes. Texas won the past 6 meetings with Kansas State, dating back to 2017. It's the longest winning streak in the all-time series for either program. Kansas State coming off a drubbing of Houston, 41-0, even though they had cool uniforms. Which then I think they got sent to cease and desist by the NFL because it was too much like the Oilers uniforms. They went like
SMU.
Yeah, that was SMU.
Such horseshit.
Yeah,
it's such horseshit. That's unreal.
That's so stupid. So stupid. Kansas State has not allowed a touchdown over the last 9 quarters. They're outscoring their opponents 103-3 since Texas Tech scored a touchdown midway through the 3rd quarter on October 14th. So Kansas State, one of 6 Power 5 teams to rank it top 15 nationally in scoring offense and scoring defense.
Yeah.
They've got this kid, Avery Johnson, a true freshman that's come in at quarterback and been really good. He had 5 rushing touchdowns against Texas Tech on 16 carries.
Jesus.
I think this game's going to be really good. You can get Texas's defense on explosive plays through the air. Last 3 meetings in Austin, Kansas State has covered 2 of them. Texas has won all 3, though. I'm going to take Texas 31-28, but I think it's going to be a great game.
Tell me the spread and the over-under again, one more time.
The spread is -4 for Texas, total 51.
Texas at home. I think the best play here is the under. I think that both teams play enough defense. Now, I will tell you this. It's that I wouldn't put a lot of money on it because I think Texas is, like you said, they've scored over 30 points in the first 9 games, the first time in school history. Kansas State, like you said, top 15 in both offense and defense. But 0 points in the last 9 quarters in a conference that you say whatever you want to about, like if they have enough contenders, but 5-way tie with all that parity in the conference. I think that's impressive. There's a reason why Kansas State has flown under the radar this entire season.
Yep. They did last year too. They won the Big 12 last year.
They did. I think that it'll be interesting to see how much of Texas is Texas buying of themselves, if that makes sense, which it probably shouldn't, just the way I phrase it like an idiot.
Yeah.
But how much thank you for agreeing with that. How much is Texas feeling themselves after playing last week, winning by a bunch against a BYU team, knowing they could have won by more because of all the mistakes they made in the goal line stands and the turnovers and blah, 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 without their starting quarterback? Vegas knows something. This feels like, and I don't want it to happen, but it feels like a game that Texas loses in the past. And I want to say they've turned the corner because I'm very high on Texas and I thought they'd make the playoff. Been saying it for a while. I wonder what this Texas team looks like when they're like, oh man, even if we how much confidence do you have right now as a team that you're going to make the playoff even if you win the Big 12? You don't have your starting quarterback. And now you're a 4-point favorite. I got Kansas State to win outright. I think K-State wins, and I hate every part of it, but I'm going to say that they win 34-31.
Yeah, so even though you said the under was the play,
I'm done. Hold on. I'll say Texas, Kansas State wins 27-23. I soared past the fucking over.
Just like 2 touchdowns past the fucking over.
Dude, the under is the play. I think it's going to be a shootout, 48-44. God, I'm done.
Oh man, Kansas State is plus 176. I think is the best number you can find on the money line. That's probably not a bad little sprinkle there.
No, I got a piece so bad.
All right, let's keep it in the Big 12 real quick. Pour one out for Bedlam.
We could skip more. Penn State, Maryland.
Yeah, we could skip that one. That's fine.
Okay. Give me a pick on it real quick.
Oh, okay. Let me go to I've got Penn State 24, Maryland 13.
Penn State 24. What's the line on the spread? So we can pick it.
So I think that spread has moved down all the way to -8 for Penn State, which is pretty crazy.
It's on the road.
It is. But Maryland's also lost 3 games in a row. The spread the total is 50.5.
Okay. I'll do my math on that. I think because I think Maryland's home crowd has been really disappointing in several of the games I've watched this season. Penn State's defense is still very good. I know that the Indiana thing was wild to watch last week, but I tell you what, if you want to get right game for a fucking defense or for a fucking offense, go play Maryland. Maryland just gave up like 34 points to Northwestern.
Yeah.
They gave up like I think in the first half, Northwestern scored like 20 or 21. That's more than they've scored in like all but 4 of their games the last 2 seasons for a full game. I think Penn State wins. I think they win convincingly because they need to. I think last week was a wake-up call, and they got Michigan going next week, right? So I will say I think this might be a lock of the week type situation. Penn State will win. I will say 31 to 21.
Okay. All right. Keeping it within the Big 12. 3:30 on ABC. Pour one out for Bedlam. It's the last one for the foreseeable future. This game has been played every season since 1910.
That's insane.
Oklahoma has dominated the series history, going 91-19-7 against the Cowboys.
What?
Yeah. 91-19-7. Oklahoma's won 7 of the last 8, including last year's 28-13 home victory. Both these teams are part of that 5-way tie for first in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, we talked about this last week, has won 4 straight after starting 2-2. Big part of that success has been their running back, Ollie Gordon II. If you haven't watched this guy yet, he's a beast. He leads the nation in rushing with 1,087 yards already. Chris, over the last 2 weeks, he's run for 553 yards and 6 touchdowns.
What?
Yeah, Oklahoma State's running back. Oklahoma 6th in success rate offensively, 19th defensively. They're not hitting the explosive play, and they're giving up a ton of explosive plays on defense. But little stat I saw: OU has covered 4 in a row, and they're 8-2 in covering in the last 10 against Oklahoma State. I'm going to take Oklahoma 35, Oklahoma State 24.
What's the line spread? I missed it again. Sorry.
Plus 6.5 for Oklahoma State. 60.5 is the total.
Okay. We haven't talked about Oklahoma State at all this year.
No, because I wrote them off when they got blown out by South Alabama at home.
Yeah. 6-2. Here's what concerns me if you're Oklahoma. They have been susceptible to giving up the big play. And the way teams have chosen to attack them, it seems like it's been, I mean, UCF had a couple big broken plays that were long passing plays, but last week with Kansas, like, it was running the football. I'm probably wrong when I say this, but like, this screams a Mike Gundy special. Like,
yeah,
sending Oklahoma off to the SEC with a loss. They're already kind of reeling. Like, that UCF game, they were down 10 or double digits, I feel like late in that game, like late third quarter, early fourth, something like that.
2 teams definitely seem to be trending in different directions.
Very different directions. I think it's being played where?
In Oklahoma State, in Stillwater.
Oklahoma State, you're telling me that Oklahoma State in this series, the way this has played out at years past, they're a touchdown underdog at home?
Yeah, they've I mean, Oklahoma is 91-19-7 against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, cool. Congrats on all the wins when, during the Dust Bowl. It's fucking awesome, OU. Dylan Gabriel has been, I don't even want to say underwhelming the past couple weeks. He just hasn't been used. Like, he had 13 pass attempts going into the final drive against Kansas a week ago. And where was that game played?
In Kansas.
In Kansas, on the road, right? They struggled for most of the game against Texas, away from home. They struggled at home against UCF. Like, this is going to be a game that, like, Gundy has nothing to lose. He has nothing to lose. He has so much to gain. Like, so much to gain. Oklahoma State wins outright. Oklahoma State wins, I'll say, 34-31. This is like, this is such a perfect, dude. And you're a touchdown underdog at home. I love that. I love that for OK State.
All right, 2 games.
Quickly go this one.
12 p.m. on ABC. Number 15 Notre Dame at Clemson. Clemson, a 3-point underdog. Total 45.5. Each of the last 4 times these teams have played, at least one of the teams has been ranked in the top 5 of the AP poll. 2 of those meetings have come in the postseason. Obviously, that's not the case this year. Clemson's coming off a loss 24-17 to NC State in a game, again, where they dominated the stat sheet and again found a way to lose. 4 losses in conference play for the first time since 2010, which was Dabo's second full year. Notre Dame coming off an absolute blowout against Pitt, 58-7. They had 2 defensive scores and an 82-yard punt return in that game for a touchdown. Notre Dame won this game last year, 35-14 in South Bend. I'll just go ahead and make my pick. I like Notre Dame to win and cover. I think it's been a popular pick for Clemson to win this game. I feel the vibes there. They don't feel good.
No.
And I'm going to go 28-23 Notre Dame. They're 10-5-2 against the spread as an away favorite the last 5 years. 13-2 against the spread as a single-digit favorite. I get, Clemson's 65-3 straight up at home in the last 10 years, but they're 2-6 against the spread on the season. Notre Dame's 7-2 against the spread. By the way, Chris, Clemson's wins this year. They have 4 wins. Wake Forest, they barely beat at home. Syracuse, FAU, and Charleston Southern.
Weren't they pretty close in one of those games against Charleston Southern or FAU at the start?
Yeah, they were. Charleston Southern was giving them a game for a half.
Yeah, man, I want to pick Clemson because I feel like this is the kind of shit that Dabo would do.
Yeah.
They're at home and they've played really well at home against Florida State. I just don't know if
they're going to bring their guts.
It's the worst. The worst. I just don't know if this is I don't know if this is a rally the troops type of moment because I don't know if the troops can be rallied at this point. I mean, Dabo he told people they should lose to let people off the bandwagon. And then when people started to get off the bandwagon, he's like, good. Get off the bandwagon. They haven't won a game since.
So
who do you think Dabo's favorite band is, by the way? It's like the Wiggles or something stupid.
Who?
The Wiggles.
The Wiggles. The Bengals.
It's gotta be like I love Journey, but only the soft stuff. Like, Don't Stop Believing, little bit too aggressive for me. Little bit. I don't like it. Now, I'll tell you what, if they would have sang that song about the Lord, I would love it. Also, shout out to our guys at Smack Apparel. They hooked me up with 3 really awesome shirts. I probably should have worn the other one as well. I'm gonna look like a huge homer in this pick, but I don't really care. I could easily see Clemson winning this game. This is the kind of thing that Dad would do. And Clemson, listen, from a roster standpoint, there's a lot of talent on that roster. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think they're able to do some things. We've seen Hartman on the road. He struggled at Duke. He struggled against a really good defense against Ohio State. I think it's a very low-scoring game. But there's just nothing that Clemson does that tells me they're going to pull away from Notre Dame or be able to beat them necessarily. And here's the other thing, too. If you're Notre Dame and you're going on the road to Death Valley, what you want more than anything is you want to have a quarterback that is not going to be phased in the situation. And you've got an 11th year fucking lumberjack at QB with Sam Hartman. I think that Notre Dame is able to win. I don't think it's anything that's super crazy convincing. I'll say Notre Dame 20-17.
There ain't one thing in my life that I've ever failed at, Tyler. Never.
All right.
Tyler.
Last game here. 3:30 game on CBS. Number 12, Missouri at number 2, Georgia. 14.5 points. Favorite for Georgia at home. Total 55. Last season, Georgia had to rally from a 10-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Missouri. But they did end up winning the game. It was their 9th win in a row in the series. Obviously, Georgia, after dismantling Florida last week, has now won 25 straight games. Ladd McConkey, Dominic Lovett, former Missouri player, have been stepping up in the absence of Brock Bowers. Carson Beck's been really good. We've talked about him and how he's improved throughout the year. Missouri's coming off a bye, which is good for them, obviously. It's been the Brady Cook, Luther Burden show, but don't forget about Cody Schrader, 807 yards, 9 touchdowns. In my opinion, Missouri's going to have to stay ahead of the chains in this one. Georgia's first in the country in third down defense. They're also first in the country in third down conversions on offense, which is a great recipe for success. When Missouri does get into their opponent territory, they're 24th in the country in finishing the drive. Georgia's defense is 68th. So if they can have some success in moving the chains and actually getting into Georgia territory, they could actually put up some points in this game. But Georgia, Caroline mentioned it, they've tended to show up when the spotlight's been on them and people have started to doubt them. There's going to be spotlight on this game. It's for the SEC East. This game certainly qualifies as a spotlight game. I think they show up here. They show the committee they should be number 1. I think they pour it on late, and I'm going UGA 45, Missouri 20.
Have you seen any of the numbers they've had under Kirby Smart in the month of November?
I have not.
Dating back to 2020, and I'm not gonna include Florida because that's usually the play the week before. They've only had, I'm looking at it right now, they've had in the last 3 years, 3+ years, they've had one game that's been decided by less than 10 points.
Jeez.
This is a perfect spot. It's a perfect spot. The Rangers, by the way, just took a 1-0 lead in the sixth.
Okay.
But this is a perfect spot for Georgia. I love that Mizzou's coming off a bye. I love the fact that Luther Burden and that offense have been great. I'll say it because it's Saturday Football Uncensored, and I can say whatever I want, and it's our show. There's not a fucking white running back in the country that's going to go into Athens, Georgia, and beat Georgia. So you can hold the Cody Schrader talk. We'll take that off.
If you got a problem with it, I don't care.
Let me tell you something right now, Tyler. I doubted the dogs last week. Doubt the dogs. Doubted Kirby. Why I'm here.
I saw you bought Creed tickets, by the way.
I did not, in case my girlfriend's listening, because those were bought for me.
You did post it on Twitter, though, so.
Well, I told her they were a gift. She doesn't listen to the podcast, so we're fine.
Right.
They're also like for next July. It's gonna be sick. I can't fucking wait. They're good seats too. I'm fired. Dude, like you can get real quick, like Georgia fans, just bear with me for a second. Creed announced their North American tour on Monday, the day after we did the song about Georgia and to the Creed song. You know that there's an option, Tyler. There's an option for front row tickets or like up close tickets and meet and greet that are over $900 a piece. They're sold out for Greenville. Like, dude, the laugh. It's something. I'll say that. Anyway, so back to this game. Listen, my best friend Jeff Colby, big Mizzou guy. I love Mizzou. I think they are so overlooked and so shit on for no reason. It makes me so frustrated and mad because I said it last week. I said as a compliment, they're the Creed or Nickelback of the SEC. People hate them for no reason. They tell you all the time why they're not any good. And it's kind of stupid. It's just kind of stupid because they're a really good team this year especially. I love the fact that Luther Burden has put up numbers everywhere he's gone. I said as a joke the other day, I'll say it again. I don't care how it sounds. Wrap that kid in bubble wrap, man. Because top receivers like this going against Georgia defense, like purely from a superstitious standpoint, something seems to always happen. I really think this is a game that Georgia is too physical to lose. And there's a reason why Vegas has this as a 15.5-point spread. You look at what LSU Bama is, it's a 4-point game versus this game, which is like as important. There's as much riding on it at 15 points. I just think that what we're going to see is we're going to see a very good Mizzou team. And the thing I said a couple weeks ago is like how Mizzou doesn't get enough credit and no matter who they beat and blah, blah, blah. This is going to be a game that Georgia will not get enough credit for what they're about to do to Mizzou. And I've seen Mizzou's defense not great at times. Like you saw how much they struggled against LSU. LSU played like crap in the first couple quarters of that. Now you look at what Georgia did when they're on. They're a boa constrictor, man. You can't make a fucking mistake. And I think that at some point Brady Cook is going. We don't see quarterbacks like Brady Cook who are really good. He's really good this year. You think he's going to leave Athens without an interception? Because I don't.
No,
I just don't at all. I want to pick Mizzou because I do love Mizzou. I love all the fans. I love everything about that school, man. I really do. But I just think that we're at a point now in November where Georgia starts to get this thing fucking rolling. And they go into these games and they tell you, it's like, oh, we're not focused on what the committee's saying. Fuck that. There's no, like, Kirby brought it up in his press conference last week about how Dan Mullen picked him to lose. If you don't think Kirby has this team focused on the fact that they're ranked number 2 right now, or they barely beat this team, there's not a game on the schedule that Georgia, I think, will overlook less than this game. And I think Georgia wins. I think they win big. I think Georgia wins 38-13.
Ooh.
38-17.
Certainly. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of the show. It was.
Sorry.
It's okay.
No.
45-20.
That's stupid. All right. Take us out.
All right. That's the end of the show. As always, we really appreciate you all listening to the show. It would really help us in the growth of the show if you would rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a review. We'll read the best ones on air, and like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Leave a message. Call the hotline this weekend, 770-674-8233. We've really enjoyed this segment of the program. I think most of our fans do as well. So leave us a voicemail. I'm sure there'll be a lot of happy SEC fans, happy Pac-12 fans this weekend, Big 12 fans. I hope our Oklahoma fan calls back. 770-674-8233. Don't forget to check this out.
And real quick, we encourage everyone to call. But I will also tell you, if you find it in yourself to call and then bring up the fact that I was upset 2 years ago about my engagement being broken off, that's a pretty reasonable thing to be upset about. So Sharon, Karen, Brenda, Glenda, whatever your fucking name was from the Florida game, I hope you're having a great week. But your instincts were right when you followed up and said, that kind of sounded a little bit mean. It was mean, and it was a bitch move to pull. So I hope you have a great day.
She's a nice girl.
I'm sure she is.
Don't forget to check out the videos clips from the on Twitter at @SatDownSouth, on Instagram and TikTok at Saturday Down South, and on YouTube, Saturday Down South. For Chris, I'm Tyler. Good luck this weekend, and we will talk to you on Sunday night live on YouTube and Facebook, 8 Eastern time.